Hi, I'm Lady Saelym.
And I'm Madam Omen.
Join us as we dive deeper into Galveston's history. Pirates and storms, true crime and tragedy.
And the lore and legends that were born from it.
We're not here to tell ghost stories. We're here to uncover where they started.
And what never fully let go. And who stayed behind.
Beyond the past, because history doesn't rest, and neither should you. Last week, we ended at the Line, the part of Galveston many didn't talk about, but everyone knew was there, the Red Light District.
This week, we're changing direction again.
We're stepping into the history of a place that's been rebuilt again and again.
Never quite in the same place.
And somehow, something still remains. Hi, I'm Lady Saelym.
And I'm Madam Omen.
Join us as we step inside one of Galveston's most well-known names.
And some of the stories that refuse to leave it.
Because tonight, we're not telling a ghost story.
We're trying to understand one.
Who they are.
Why they're here.
And why they've been left behind. Harper and Ella didn't just talk about history on their podcast. They stepped into it. That had always been the point, not to repeat what was already written, but to stand in the place where those stories still lived, talk to the people who carried them, and see what held up when you removed distance and time. Harper Reed had learned early on that the stories worth following were the quiet, consistent ones.
Ella Monroe didn't disagree with her. She just understood things differently. Patterns didn't always point to something external. Sometimes they pointed to how people experienced a space and how expectations settled in before they even realized it was there. If enough people walk around and have heard the same thing and had similar experiences, it didn't take much for the mind to complete the rest. A sound, a shadow, something just slightly off. And then suddenly, the experience matched the story.
The difference wasn't something they argued about anymore. It was the reason their work held together. Harper followed a pattern. Ella tested it. Somewhere in between the two, the truth either held or it didn't. The Tremont House wasn't something they went looking for. It came to them the way most cases did. Repeated, unprompted, consistent. One message, then another, then a review that echoed the same words without realizing it had. Harper printed them out, not because she needed them on paper, but because the pattern was easier to see laid out in front of her. Across several pages, one line appeared more than anything else. It felt like someone was behind me. Not I saw someone, not there was someone, just the moment in between, the reaction, the turn, the realization that nothing was there.
Ella noticed something else. It wasn't just what people said, it was how they said it. Most of them dismissed it before they even finished writing it. Probably nothing, just my imagination. It could have been something else. That mattered. Because people who expect something will usually lean into it. But these people didn't.
And then, scattered between those accounts, just rare enough to stand out, was something more specific. A soldier. Not clearly seen, not fully described, just enough to be recognized after the fact. A uniform, a presence that didn't linger. A figure that never stayed long enough to be confirmed.
Entry 1, Tremont House. Same pattern. People feel someone behind them, no clear visuals, and sometimes it gets tied back to a Civil War soldier.
Not enough to call it proof,
but enough to make people expect it.
She looked back down at the pages, not reading them this time, just letting them sit. Letting the repetition settle into something familiar. She closed the folder.
Let's investigate the Tremont House.
Ella gave a small nod, no hesitation, because whatever this was, it wasn't going to show itself on paper. It would either hold or it wouldn't.
In 1839, as Galveston established itself as a port city along the Gulf, the Tremont House stood as one of its earliest and most prominent hotels. It became a place where movements gathered, where travelers, merchants, and political figures passed through its rooms as the island grew in both influence and wealth. During the Civil War, buildings throughout the city, including the Tremont, were used to support military presence. Soldiers moved through spaces not originally intended for them, their routines blending into the life of the city itself. In 1865, fire swept through Galveston and claimed the original structure, bringing an end to a building that had once stood at the center of it all.
By the time Harper and Ella reached the entrance, the late afternoon light had softened, stretching just enough across the doorway to blur where the street ended and the building began. They paused for a moment before stepping inside, because this is where the work truly started. Not in the notes, but in that first step. Harper adjusted the strap of her bag as they entered, her attention settling naturally into the space. She wasn't searching yet, just letting the room reveal itself. The front desk set to the right, steady and expected. Beyond it, a long hallway that stretched out, quieter than the rest of the room. Straight ahead, the lobby opened wide. People gathered in small clusters. Conversations layered without competing. To the left, chairs and tables filled the space, and further back, a bar carried its own rhythm. Quieter, grounded, the kind of place where people stayed a while.
Ella moved through the room differently. She wasn't focused on how it looked so much as how it worked. Where people slowed down, where they passed through without noticing, which parts of the space held attention without asking for it. That was usually where the stories lived. She was about to say something when a different sound cut through the room. Boots? They were sharper than anything else, followed by the movement of fabric that didn't quite belong. And she noticed it at the same time that Harper did. Gray coats, brass buttons catching the light, and the Civil War reenactors were in the hotel.
Well, that answers that part of it.
Or explains it.
And it did. The notes, the mentions of a soldier, the vague descriptions. It all had somewhere to land now. Something visible, something easy to attach to. If someone thought they saw a soldier here, well, I guess they wouldn't question it. Harper slowed as they reached the center of the room, letting it settle before deciding what mattered. The history, the settling, the movement, it all lined up. And then something didn't. Someone passed close behind her. Not enough to stop her, but enough to draw her attention. She adjusted without even thinking about it. When she turned, no one was there. Not in the way she felt them, anyway. The reenactors were all still visible, still moving through the room in steady patterns, just not directly behind her.
Ella caught it immediately. Not what happened, but Harper's reaction. The pause, the break from the rhythm around them.
And that is exactly how it happens. You feel something, turn, and when nothing is there, your brain fills in the blanks.
I mean, they did mention a soldier.
And you walked into a room full of them.
Harper didn't argue. She couldn't, because it did make sense. She glanced once more over her shoulder, not expecting to find anything now, just confirming the space against the moment. Nothing had changed. But gosh, it sure did feel like something was there.
Ella lifted her phone without looking at it.
Entry 2, on-site observation. The environment supports reported accounts. Civil War reenactors were present. This supports visual expectations.
She paused, and her eyes briefly crossed the same space that Harper had just checked.
Perceived proximity, with no confirmation.
Harper let out a slow breath.
Let's just go upstairs. If anything is here, it's probably not going to show itself in the middle of a filled room like this anyway.
The room felt different once the door closed behind them. Not because anything had changed, but because less was competing for their attention. Harper dropped her bag on the bed, flipping it open. She didn't organize the pages. She never did. Patterns tended to show themselves faster when they weren't forced.
These just don't read like stories. They read more like interruptions. Listen to this one. Someone walked behind me in the hallway. When I turned around, no one was there.
And this one woke up around 2 a.m. It sounded like someone was outside my door. When I opened it, no one was there. And another, it felt like someone was behind me when I walked into the room. When I turned, nothing was behind me.
She let that one set for a beat, and then she placed it back with the others.
They all do the same thing. They react first and then explain it away.
Harper leaned back slightly, letting the pages stay scattered.
They're not trying to convince anyone. They're just writing what happened and then correcting themselves.
Her eyes move across the notes again, slower now, tracing the pattern instead of the details. She tapped lightly on one page and then another.
I mean, that's what makes it believable. They're rationalizing it.
She reached for a smaller stack near the edge of the bed, the ones that hadn't come from reviews or emails.
This one's from the staff. We don't usually mention this unless a guest brings it up first. But your experience is not uncommon.
She read it once and then set it down.
So it's not tied to any one room. That's consistent.
Her hand hovers over the pages.
Different floors, different stays, but the same moment. And they all turn around to look.
Ella leaned back slightly. Her gaze drifted toward the door before returning to her notes.
So here are my thoughts. You are in a place where people are constantly moving. Hallways, rooms, shared spaces. And you expect someone to be there before you can actually see them. So when you don't, your mind wanders.
Harper didn't respond right away. Again, it made sense and it explained the repetition, but not everything. She reached for one last page, one she had set aside earlier.
I was walking through the lobby when it felt like someone brushed behind me. When I turned to look, no one was there.
She lowered it and gazed at Ella as if to challenge what had just happened in the lobby.
Come on now, you know there were reenactors in the lobby. That changes the setup.
I mean, maybe, but it still fits.
Anything can fit. Especially if you believe it does.
Ella hits record.
Pattern holds across multiple environments. Hallway, room, lobby, same sequence. Perceived presence, reaction, but still no confirmation.
Her eyes flicking briefly toward the door.
The explanation still holds.
She stopped recording, but didn't set the phone down.
Harper leaned fully back now, her eyes no longer on the notes, because at this point, it wasn't about what any one person had said. It was about how often they said it and how little it changed.
By the early 1870s, Galveston wasn't just rebuilding, it was redefining itself. The second Tremont House rose during a moment of confidence, designed by Nicholas Clayton, whose work would come to shape the city's identity. Larger and more refined than its predecessor, it wasn't just a hotel. This was a statement. This was where the world passed through Galveston. Presidents, wealthy merchants, and political figures all moved through its doors. And for a time, if something important was happening in the city, it was happening here. But like the port it served, nothing stayed long. People arrived, lingering briefly, and moved on. The Tremont became a place defined not by permanence, but by transition. As the 20th century unfolded, Galveston's role as a major port began to fade. With the rise of Houston's shipping channel, The flow of commerce and the people who followed it moved inland. The Tremont didn't fall overnight. It simply slipped out of the center of things.
Harper didn't move to pick up another page right away. She let Michelson's words settle into a pattern they had already been building. Not because they confirmed anything, but because they gave shape to something she hadn't quite yet defined.
It's not the same kind of account.
She said finally, reaching for one of those notes she had set aside earlier. Her voice stayed low, steady, not pushing the idea.
These don't describe something passing through. They describe something that almost does.
She turns the page slightly towards Ella without fully handing it off, reading it again as if it might change the second time.
I heard footsteps outside the door. They stopped. It felt like they loitered for a moment. And then, just gone.
Fingers brushed another page. This one creased more than others.
I heard pacing in the hallway. When I peeked out, nothing was there.
She leaned back slightly, letting both notes remain visible.
It's the same as the lobby.
No, in the lobby, they're reacting to something that is already in the space. In these, they're reacting to something that doesn't cross into it. Does that make sense?
Ella followed the difference immediately, her attention narrowing. Less observational, more analytical. She leaned forward just enough to take in both pages at once, not reading the words as much as recognizing the structure they share.
That's easier to explain.
Her tone was steady, grounded in the same logic that she had held from the beginning.
Stay with me for a moment. You are in a place where people are expected to pass by your door. If you hear something stop, your brain instantly fills in the blanks. It doesn't need confirmation, it just needs timing.
She let her gaze lift briefly toward the door as she said it, not reacting, but aligning the explanation with the space that they were sitting in.
Logically, you expect someone to knock, and when that doesn't happen, that stands out.
Harper watched her for a moment, not disagreeing.
But again, it repeats the same way as the others.
Ella nodded once, a small acknowledgement, her focus still half on the door and half on the notes.
That's what patterns do. They simplify. They give you something familiar to fall into.
She adjusted her weight slightly, leaning back just enough to release the tension in her shoulders.
You don't need an actual presence, just something that triggers a reaction.
Then, almost as staged with their conversation, they both noticed it. A soft sound outside that turned their attention to the door. A faint movement, maybe a shuffle. Then a light, deliberate tap against the door. Ella crossed the room, hand already reaching before she'd decided to move. The handle turned. The door opened. The hallway stretched out in both directions, completely empty, unchanged. No footsteps, no retreat, no one there. She stood there longer than she meant to and listened for something else to follow, but nothing did.
Harper didn't move this time. Her eyes stayed on Ella instead, watching her reaction.
So are we filling in the gaps now?
Ella did not acknowledge her right away. Her gaze stayed fixed down the empty hallway.
Maybe?
She said finally. Ella reached for her phone without looking at it, her fingers finding it by habit more than intention.
Entry 3. Audible presence. Outside of the door. No entry. No visible source.
She paused and her eyes flicked once as she closed the door.
Consistent with reported accounts, but possibly contaminated by imagination.
She stopped the recording.
Harper leaned back again, letting the moment settle around them the way it had when they first walked in. The notes were still there. The pattern was still intact. Nothing had changed in a way that could be pointed at or proven. But something had changed. Not in the room, but in the way the room suddenly felt inside.
The Tremont House, as it stands today, does not occupy the same structure as its predecessors. The current building began as part of the Blum and Company building, constructed in 1894 for commercial use, during a time when Galveston's economy depended heavily on goods moving through its port. It was not designed as a hotel, nor did it serve the same purpose as the structures that came before it. Over time, as the historic downtown began to be revitalized, this building was chosen to carry the Tremont name forward, because that name already meant something to the community. It was tied to memory, to identity, to a version of Galveston that people weren't ready to let go of. So the space was transformed. What stands today became the Tremont House, once again, carrying forward the name, not the original foundation, and not the same function. And in a city shaped by storms, rebuilding, and renovation, sometimes it isn't the structure that survives, it is the name.
Harper didn't reach for another note. She stayed where she was, her attention no longer on the pages, but on the shape they had started to form.
That doesn't line up,
She said quietly, the clarity settling in as something stopped fitting where it should. She leaned forward slightly, grounding her thought.
If the original building is gone, and the second one is closed, then none of these accounts actually belong to this structure.
Her eyes moved across the room, not searching, just placing reality against what they had been working through.
Ella let it sit before answering, taking in what Harper was really saying.
In this situation, I don't think they belong to the structure, so much as they belong to the name. People don't walk in here experiencing something new. They walk in knowing what this place is supposed to be, and it evolves from there. You might have heard a story before you ever enter, and by the time you step inside, it doesn't have to be ground zero.
Harper nodded once. That part made sense. It explained the expectation, the repetition, and the consistency across people who had never met. But it didn't explain everything.
It's not just the idea, the details don't change. What changes is the when and where. People don't describe someone standing there, they describe their reaction to the situation.
That's how perception works. Your mind doesn't always register a full event. You might catch a piece of something and your brain fills in the rest. You don't need the original building for that. All you need is the name that carries the stories.
It explained most of what they had seen, but not all of it.
So what you are saying is, this is all just expectation. So if that is true, then explain why it follows the same sequence every time.
Her eyes meet Ella's.
Why does everyone describe an interrupted moment the same way?
Ella held her gaze a second longer before answering.
Because once a pattern exists, people repeat it without even realizing that's what's happening. It doesn't mean nothing triggered it. It just means that it's familiar enough to take over.
She reached for her phone.
Entry 4. Structural and consistency confirmed. Current building does not match the origin of the reported accounts. Primary explanation remains expectation, tied to historical identity, rather than an actual location. Pattern continues.
She stopped the recording but did not put the phone down.
Harper watched her for a moment, recognizing the difference. Not in the conclusion, but how it was being held. It wasn't just what people were experiencing anymore. It was how it belonged.
The bar, now housed within the Tremont, is known as the Toujours Bar, known for Henry Toujours, a saloon keeper whose establishment operated in Galveston during the late 19th century. Constructed in 1888 from solid rosewood, the bar was originally built for his saloon during a time when the island port economy supported a steady flow of merchants, sailors, and travelers. It functioned not simply as a place to drink, but as a social center where business was conducted, information was exchanged, and reputations were formed. Unlike the Tremont structures, which were lost, rebuilt, or replaced over time, the bar itself endured by being relocated. It was preserved as an object rather than a place, carried forward into new environments as the city changed. When incorporated into the present Tremont House, It brought with it continuity not tied to the walls or foundations, but to use and to presence.
Harper slowed as they approached the far left corner of the lobby, her attention narrowing in a way that felt familiar now. The bar didn't demand attention, but it held it once you noticed it. Dark rosewood, worn where hands had returned again and again, its surface catching light differently than everything else around it. Her hand rested along the back of a chair as she took it in.
This bar doesn't come from any version of the Tremont. It actually belonged somewhere else.
Ella followed her gaze, but where Harper saw continuity, Ella saw behavior.
You notice it. People stop here. They turn toward the detail, not the room. The carving, the mirror, it pulls them in. After a minute, they're not really watching anything behind them.
She let her hand rest lightly against the edge of the bar.
That's where what gets noticed starts to change.
Harper pulled a smaller set of notes from a folder, fewer pages, but more consistent.
So, the bartender mentioned a boy. People call him Jimmy. He's not something you really see. It's more like something you catch out of the corner of your eye. Small, low to the ground, and gone the second you look directly at it. Another account, someone thought they saw a kid near the bar, looked again, nothing there. And that part, that repeats almost every time.
Ella nodded. Her gaze lowered slightly.
That fits peripheral recognition. You're focused forward and something crosses just outside your line of sight. Your brain connects it before you can confirm it. It doesn't require anything to actually be there, just enough movement.
Some of the accounts go further. Not as consistent, but they do show up. Drinks getting nudged, a glass shifting. Someone feels a tap on their shoulder when no one's there. Those don't repeat as often, but they're there.
Ella let that sit. Her gaze returned once more to the lower edge of the bar. She's almost afraid to say it out loud, but she does.
Okay, don't get excited. I think I just saw something, but that doesn't mean I did.
Harper's attention moved to her immediately.
Wait, really? Where? Where did you see it?
Okay, settle down. It was near the corner. Just a quick flash. Low. Caught my attention. It was probably just light catching something passing by.
Maybe you didn't imagine it. Maybe you're seeing it the same way others do.
Ella reached for her phone to record.
Entry 5. Child-associated reports tied to the bar location. Peripheral movement remains the most consistent description. Additional reports include object disturbance and occasional physical contact, but those don't repeat as often. Observation still aligns with the primary pattern.
She set her phone down at the bar.
Harper turned back to the mirror lining the back of the bar, her gaze moving across the surface again, slower now.
This bar had been carried here from somewhere else, touched by different versions of the city, different moments in time, remaining the same while everything around it changed.
And for the first time since they arrived, the question didn't settle as easily, because now it wasn't tied to a building. It was tied to something that remained.
Back in the room, the notes didn't feel separate anymore. They no longer read as individual experiences tied to different people or different parts of the building. They had formed something unified, repeating not just in detail, but in structure. Harper sat down on the edge of the bed, the pages still in front of her, but she wasn't looking at them the same way. Earlier, she had been searching for consistency in what people described. Now she was looking at what stayed the same even when everything else had changed.
The building doesn't match.
She let her hand rest lightly on one of the pages.
The first one burned. The second one closed. This one
She glanced briefly around the room.
was never either of them.
Her eyes returned to the notes.
But what people experienced didn't change.
Ella picked up her phone, though she hadn't started another recording. I guess at this point it's just habit.
So it changed locations, but not behavior. That's what we're seeing, right? People walk in already knowing the name. They know what it's supposed to be. That expectation doesn't stay outside. It comes in with them. And that could be enough to carry it.
Harper gathered a few of the pages, not organizing them, just bringing them closer.
I mean, it explains why they expect it, but it doesn't explain why they all describe it the same way. If they've never talked to each other, they're not describing someone standing there. They're describing reacting to something already in motion, or something that almost was, and they all react to it, one way or another.
Ella glanced down at her phone, then back at the notes.
It still fits perception.
This time she said it carefully and held the explanation where it still worked. Not fully committed to it, though.
Harper leaned back slightly, letting the silence sit.
They hear it in the hallway, right outside the door. Every time, it stops, the door opens, and there's nothing there.
Ella looked quickly towards the door. This one was harder to ward off because Ella experienced it firsthand.
That's still expectation. You're waiting for something to happen. And when it doesn't, that's what stands out. At this point, I still believe the evidence is incomplete.
Harper nodded.
Okay, so at the bar, they're sitting still, not expecting anything, and they still see something. Just like you did.
They're focused. That makes smaller movements easier to catch. There could be something else we're missing.
Harper leaned forward again, her attention returning to the notes one last time.
The structure changed, the layout changed, the purpose changed,
Her hand rested over the pages.
but what people described didn't.
She lifted her gaze slowly.
So either
She let it hang there because there were only two directions it could go.
Ella finally started another recording, her voice quieter than before.
Final entry. Pattern confirmed across multiple environments, not structurally connected to the original site. Primary explanation remains. Expectation tied to historical identity.
She didn't finish it.
Harper let out a slow, deep breath.
either people are walking into the same story and experiencing it the same way, or
She didn't finish the sentence because saying it out loud would change it, and that wasn't the point. The point was the question.
In cities shaped by time, structures rarely remain unchanged. Buildings are lost, rebuilt, repurposed, and replaced as the needs of the present overtake the form of the past. What endures is not always the physical space, but the stories attached to it. If an experience continues across locations that no longer share the same structure, one must consider what is being carried forward. Is it expectation shaped by what is known before arrival, or something less easily defined, continuing independent of the place? When the pattern remains, even the environment changes. The question is not simply whether something happened, it is whether the explanation fully accounts for it.
This has been Beyond the Past, because history doesn't rest.
Neither should you.